Thank God. An audience. Good of you to come. You weren't put off by all those people who said Marx is dead. Well, I am. And I'm not. That's dialectics for you. You might be wondering how I got here. Public transportation. I didn't want to return here. I wanted to return to Soho. That's where I lived, in London. But a bureaucratic mix-up. And here I am. Soho, New York. Well, I always wanted to visit New York. Why have I returned? To clear my name. I've been reading your newspapers. They're all declaring that my ideas are dead. It's nothing new. These clowns have been saying this for over 160 years. Don't you wonder, why is it necessary to declare me dead again and again? Well, I've had it up to here. I asked for the right to come back for a short while. But I told you, there are rules. It's a bureaucracy. It is permitted to read, even to watch, not to travel. I protested, of course, and had some support. Socrates told them the untraveled life is not worth living. Gandhi fasted. Mother Jones threatened to picket. Buddha chanted, "Oh." Mark Twain even came to my defense in his own strange way. And the others kept quiet. My God, at this point, what have they got to lose? Yes, there too I have a reputation as a troublemaker. And there too, protest works. Finally, they said, all right, you can go. You can have an hour or so to speak your mind. But remember, no agitating. They do believe in freedom of speech, but within limits. They are liberals. So you can spread the word. Marx is back. But understand one thing. I am not a Marxist. I once said that to Pieper, and he almost croaked. I should tell you about Pieper. We were living in London at the time, Jenny and I, and the little ones, 2 dogs, 3 cats, 2 birds, hardly living, a little flat on Dean Street, right near where they dumped the city sewage. We were in London because I had been expelled from the continent, expelled from the Rhineland, yes, from my birthplace. I had done dangerous things. I was the editor of a newspaper, Die Rheinische Zeitung. Hardly revolutionary, although I suppose the most revolutionary act one can engage in is to tell the truth. You see, the police were arresting poor people for gathering firewood from the estates of the rich. I wrote an editorial protesting that. They decided to censor our newspaper. I wrote an editorial declaring there was no freedom of the press in Germany. They decided to prove me right. And they shut us down. Isn't that the way it is? Then we became radical. Our final issue of Zeitung had a huge headline in red ink. Revolt. That annoyed the authorities. They ordered me out of the Rhineland. So we went to Paris. Where else do exiles go? Where else can you stay up all night and drink wine and tell lies about how revolutionary you were in the old country? Yes, if you're going to be in exile, be one in Paris. Paris was our honeymoon. Jenny found a tiny flat in the Latin Quarter. Heavenly months. Heavenly months. But soon, the word was out. From the German police to the Paris police. Seems the police develop an internationalist consciousness long before the workers. So we went to Belgium. Expelled again, and then we came to London, where political refugees come from all over the world. The British are admirable for their tolerance and insufferable for their boasting about it. The doctors said the cough would go away in a few weeks. That was in 1858. So anyway, I was telling you about Pieper. You see, in London, the political refugees from the world marched in and out of our house. Pieper was one of them. He was a flatterer, a sycophant. He buzzed around me like a hornet. He would station himself 6 inches from me so that I could not evade him, and he would quote from my writings. I used to say, "Pieper, please do not quote me to myself." He had the audacity to say, thinking I would be pleased, that he would translate Das Kapital into English. The man could not speak one sentence of English without butchering it. English is a beautiful language. It is Shakespeare's language. If Shakespeare had heard Pieper speak one sentence of English, he would have taken poison. Jenny felt sorry for him. She used to like to invite him to our family dinners. One evening, he came over and he announced the formation of the Marxist Society of London. A Marxist society? I asked. What's that? He said, "We meet every week to discuss another of your writings. We read aloud and examine sentence by sentence. That's why we call ourselves Marxists. We believe completely and wholeheartedly in everything you've ever written." Completely and wholeheartedly, I asked. "Yes, and we would be honored, Herr Dr. Marx." He always called me Mr. Dr. Marx. I don't know. "If you would address the next meeting of the Marxist Society." I cannot do that. "Why not?" "Because I am not a Marxist." I didn't mind his bad English. Mine wasn't always so perfect. It was his way of thinking. He was an embarrassment. A satellite encircling my words, reflecting them to the world, but distorting them, and then defending the distortions like a fanatic, denouncing anyone who interpreted them differently. I used to say to Jenny, "Do you know what I fear most?" She would say that the workers' revolution will never come. I said, "No. The revolution will come, but when it does, it will be taken over by men like Pieper. Flatterers when out of power, bullies and braggarts when holding power, dogmatists. They will speak for the proletariat. They will interpret my ideas for the world. They'll organize a new hierarchy, a new priesthood, with excommunications and indexes, inquisitions and firing squads, all in the name of communism. They'll divide the world between capitalist empires and communist empires. They muck up our beautiful dream. And it will take another revolution, maybe 2 or 3, to clean it up. That's what I fear. No, I was not going to have Pieper translate Das Kapital. It represented 15 years of work in the conditions of Soho, making my way every morning past the bodies of beggars sleeping amidst the sewage, and then to the British Museum, there with its magnificent library, reading until dusk, reading. Is there anything more boring than reading political economy? Writing political economy. Then home through the darkening streets, past the vendors calling out the prices of their wares, the veterans of the Crimean War, some blind, others without legs, begging for a penny in the noxious air. The poor smell of London. Yes. Some of my critics trying to minimize what went into Das Kapital would say, as they always say about radical writers, oh, he must have had some dreadful personal experience. Yes. Yes. If you want to make much of it, I'd walk home through Soho, fuel the anger that went into Das Kapital. But I hear you saying, well, of course, that was then, over a century ago. Only then, Gesundheit. On my way here this morning, I walked through the streets of your city, surrounded by garbage, breathing foul air, past the bodies of men and women sleeping on the street, huddled against the cold. Instead of a lassie singing a ballad, I heard a voice in my ear. Some change, sir, for a cup of coffee. And you call this progress? Because you have motor cars, flying machines, 1,000 potions to make you smell better, and people sleeping on the street. An official report. Last year, the United States gross domestic product, yes, gross, it was $7,000 billion. Whew. Most impressive. Tell me, where is it? Who is profiting from it? Who is not? Less than 500 individuals control $2,000 billion in business assets. Are these individuals more noble, more hardworking, more valuable to society than the mother in the tenement, nursing 3 children through the winter without any money to pay the heating bill? Didn't you hear me say 160 years ago that capitalism would greatly increase the wealth of the world, but that wealth would be concentrated into fewer and fewer hands? Goldman Sachs. I'll say no more. Do you know the Oliver Goldsmith poem, The Deserted Village? Ill fares the land, to hastening ills a prey, where wealth accumulates and men decay. That's what I saw as I walked through the streets of your city. Buildings decaying, schools decaying, people decaying. But then I walked a bit farther, and I was suddenly surrounded by men of obvious wealth, women in jewels and furs. Suddenly I heard the sound of sirens. Was a crime being committed somewhere nearby? Was violence being done? Was somebody trying to take a part of the gross domestic product illegally from those who have stolen it legally? Oh, the wonders of the market system. Human beings reduced to commodities, their lives controlled by the super commodity money. The committee doesn't like that.